Guys, welcome to the new episode of First Responder Playbook. It is my pleasure to introduce Vince Carter. Vince is the CEO, CFO of CFO at Home. He has his own podcast. He does financial services. He's a coach. Vince, thanks for taking your time out on a Saturday during college football season to join us.
Not a problem. Georgia Tech was leading when we started the recording. We'll see how that turns out by the time we finish. But thanks a lot for your time.
Listen, I'm just going to say I was a fan growing up of the Ramblin' Wreck. And so I can, and I liked them during the Paul Johnson years too. So I hope they upset Clemson today.
Me and you both, sir.
Vince, thanks for joining me today. Tell my audience a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you go down the route of being a coach, your own podcast, and being in charge of your own life and money matters?
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Probably the best way of starting this out is first of all, my podcast CFO at Home is the basic premise of it is that I take the basics or the principles of a corporate CFO and I apply those to how we need to manage our finances at home. And my background sort of feeds into that. I am let's see, if I'm still with my corporate job in October, it'll be 37 years. So I have a long corporate background where I've dealt with corporate engineering, project management, and I did about a 7 or 8 year stint in corporate finance. And of course, in all of my jobs, I've kind of touched corporate finance. And what occurred to me over kind of a long period of time was I got married like 5 years after I got my first corporate gig. So I was already kind of a corporate guy mentally by that time. And that's really when I had to start setting up a structure for managing family finances. And without even thinking about it, I started to set up those processes kind of with what I was doing at work in mind. So that led me to putting together this system, this way of thinking about managing your home finances. And it clicked around in my mind for years. But a little thing happened about 5 years ago. A little pandemic happened, a large pandemic, and a lot of work from home happened. And really, it was that work from home opportunity that finally allowed me to solidify this concept I had in my head for a podcast and actually start recording it. So started back in summer of 2020, and we're at a little bit over 200 episodes now.
That's awesome. The pandemic was such a terrible time because of all the loss of life and stuff. But there has been a lot of innovation that's came out of it for people that may have not necessarily got in the podcasting world, and they started sharing their message through that, and it's taken off. And man, I always tell people, they ask me like, "How'd you get into podcasting?" I drove around for 12 hours in a cop car, and I got tired of listening to Coast at 3 in the morning, and I discovered podcasts, and I love it. I mean, it just you can learn so much by just listening to people share their stories, and I love it. And so when I finally decided to take the leap and start my own, I was blessed to get on Podmatch, and that's how we connected. But I've had so many guests that have such a unique story, and I love it because you can learn a little bit from everybody, regardless of what career you chose, what education path you chose. Always learn from everybody, and that's my one life thing.
Yeah, I was an early adapter as far as being a podcast listener myself. And not similar to your situation, but kind of similar to your situation. My corporate gig at the time, my commute was round trip, probably a little over 3 hours a day. And that is a lot of time to fill with a lot of information. And it's like, as opposed to me just listening to the same, songs every day and just wondering when am I going to get out of this traffic? Let me make something useful of this time. So that's when I started listening. And I think that's when the seed got planted in me. It's like this thing that I want to share. Why not do it with my own podcast?
Love it. I love it. So how did you decide you started doing the coaching, consulting? How did you go down that route? Was that during COVID as well, or did you start that beforehand?
It was actually a little after the podcast came first. So the podcast kind of scratched that itch of sharing information that I had with others as far as how to become the CFO of their home and manage their money in the way they want to do it. But after a while with the podcast, of course, it's okay. I'm doing that. What else can I do to help people? And coaching was a natural extension of that. So I want to say about 3 years ago, I got certified as a coach and financial educator through the National Financial Education Council. And it's allowed me to expand things because, as you know, podcasting is kind of a one-way street for the most part. You're not really having a conversation. You're more or less, well, you're having a conversation with the person that you're talking to, like in this case, but not with the audience. I wanted to be able to actually have that two-way conversation with people as I'm helping them with their finances, and coaching and financial education was just a natural extension.
I love it. I just recently been through a couple coaching certifications myself, and it's just another way you can spread your message of helping people. Everybody always just. I still think I always laugh because in Oklahoma we're probably 10 years behind everybody and everything, and so I don't truly feel like what coaching is or what people think coaching is has necessarily reached the general population here yet.
Right.
And so everybody always asks me about that, and then I explain to them what it is. But I still love when I go through a coaching session, I feel so much better afterwards because you just like you feel like I actually was productive today. I got some stuff maybe back in order, or maybe I'm back on track, whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah. There's nothing like that one-to-one connection with somebody, and
yep,
and kind of helping people get to those moments where the light bulb comes on for them. There's nothing like it.
yep, I agree. So the reason I have you here today, um, in the first responder world, I've been in law enforcement full time for 10 years. We kind of work ourselves to the bone. Most of the time, we make way less than the corporate world. Either we're working a ton of extra hours at our main job just to scrape by, or we're working part-time jobs and working ourselves to the bone that way. And all that does is lead us down the road of not getting enough sleep, not focused on our primary responsibilities at work and at home. And we stretch ourselves so thin until we're burnt out. And all that leads to is bad service to the public because we're so worried about, chasing that dragon of money. It's That's the true American dream is you're chasing the dollar. Um,
It's true.
and I want somebody like yourself to give us some actionable steps because I see you love smart goals and so do I. Um, that we can start implementing on the smaller scale. So that way we're not always just working ourselves to death because at the end of the day, we truly do want to help the public that we serve. And if we don't have to, chase every single dollar every single time, I mean, even those small steps can start building up over time and you start helping everybody else out. So, Vince, this is your time to shine. This is your show today. The floor is yours.
All right, sounds good. So, Brent, what I like to do is I use a structure in my coaching and on my podcast that kind of, again, takes that analogy of the corporate CFO and applies it to our personal finances, our family finances. I'd like to take that same structure, and then you and I can talk about how together, I think how that applies to the first responder world. I have my ideas, but of course, I think you can flesh that out better than I can. So I think we can tag team this one and do a great job here. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So the first step, I mean, you have to kind of back up and look at vision and purpose. No matter how busy we all are, whether you're busy with your corporate life, and I can't imagine you can't I can't imagine the world of a first responder in terms of just busyness, and it's not exactly a 9 to 5 job and all those things, but the need to back up and ask yourself, well, what am I doing all this for? If you can't somehow carve out that time and define that, it's hard to break that cycle. So in the corporate world, for a CFO, one of the charges of a corporate CFO is really defining the financial strategy that supports the mission of a corporation. And then they kind of craft a long-term and short-term vision to get there. So they understand what the corporate vision is, and then they're plotting the financial plan to get there. In our homes, that's really where it starts. We have to get grounded in exactly what our values are and what is it that we want to accomplish long term, because those are the things that are going to ground you as you get into, the other things we'll talk about, the budgeting, the debt reduction, those kind of things. Those are not easy things. So you have to be grounded in your why before you really dive into those things. So that's my view. Is there any other sauce we need to put on that specifically for first responders?
No, and I think you hit the nail on the head in that we've got to define that value of what matters to us. Um, because I think we lose sight of that a lot of the times in the general population and the first responder world. Um, because at the end of the day, like I said, I think we get so tied into chasing every single last dollar that we kind of forget like what matters at the end of the day. And I'm with you on that,
Yeah.
100% spot on.
Yeah, and I would imagine that the nature of what first responders do is kind of a reactionary world. Again, it's not a corporate deal where you can go in and you can schedule, well, I'm going to do this at this time, and then that time, then I'm going to have lunch, that kind of thing. You're kind of there and at the ready, and then you have to respond. So I can easily see how you could kind of start to live your life that way in terms of being more reactive than proactive. So the whole idea is in this area, what serves that first responder so well and makes them such a great first responder is not necessarily going to serve them with their finances. So it's the challenge of becoming a little bit more proactive, and if that first responder has a family, has a spouse, then it's not just that person, it's also building that family objective and that family vision that's going to take you through the rest of the steps.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. Agree
Okay.
wholeheartedly
All right.
because I think
Mhm.
that you hit the nail on the head in that we have that need to be in control or getting things done, and it doesn't always serve us well outside of this environment. Um, we just try to take charge, and sometimes we need to take a step back and look at the big picture. Sometimes.
Yep. Just a different set of muscles to flex. So once you've got that vision and that purpose, really the next step is how am I going to execute on that? I mean, what are going to be my tools? What am I going to attack this with? And again, that's something that first responders can relate to, I would imagine, in terms of I would equate it to maybe the training that a first responder goes through and the preparation that they go to in order to do their job, and even the tools they use to do their jobs. You mentioned earlier that you're getting a certification now. Now, I believe that certification is in what was the certification? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Coaching.
Okay, okay.
Yep, I went
So
there. I see a program.
Okay. So you're getting a certification in coaching. I've gotten a certification in financial coaching and education. First responders have to have certifications just to do their jobs. So training and preparedness, first responders are all about that. It is the core of their job. So it's just a matter of taking that same idea and saying, okay, what is my training? What are my tools? What am I going to use in terms of just, again, tools? I mean, you can use anything from uh, a pencil and paper to a spreadsheet to there are all kinds of great apps out there. What is it that really fits not only you, but if you have a spouse, what's going to be the best communication between the two of you? It's very easy, maybe, if somebody has more of a technical mind and they get the newest whiz bang um, budgeting app, and it can do bar graphs and charts and do all kinds of wonderful things. That's great for them. But if their spouse is a very low tech person and just won't look at something like that to save their lives, then you're not really accomplishing what you're setting out to accomplish, because your tools are not just for you. Your tools are setting up communication between you and your partner to execute on the goal. So that's something that, if you don't have any of those things set up, and particularly if you have a partner, it's probably something worth discussing. It's like, hey, want to get a little bit more control of our finances here. I was, looking at this budgeting app. Is that really your thing? And to a certain extent, if you've been with your partner any amount of time, you kind of know already, but you can have the conversation. And then that's, to me, if you're in that situation, one of the most important thing about choosing the tools that you use. Now, if it's just you, just choose what works best, and also something that you're going to commit to. Don't go out and get a subscription to some great app, for $50 a month, and you're not going to maintain it. You're not going to work with it. You a first responder. Hey, this thing looked good, but I really don't have time to keep this thing updated. So be realistic with yourself about what's going to fit into your lifestyle, because you can make anything work. I mean, will an app that automatically downloads things from your bank account and helps you to keep things to the T with the speed of life now, all things being equal, is that the best technical solution? Probably. But if you don't keep it updated, who cares? So just put some thought into that part of it. And from the first responder perspective, did I miss anything there?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, actually. Especially because, we always try to think of building teams at work, and getting your finances in order, especially if you have a spouse or a girlfriend, or, whatever the case may be. Um, you still have to build that team at home. And so you have to use those things, like, if like, hey, if she's better at doing the budget, probably should let her pick the budgeting app or whatever you guys use, pen and paper. And if you're better in a different area and do other things, do it your way, that way. And you have to have that open line of communication first and foremost. And you hit the nail on the head about getting the latest, greatest app of, hey, we're going to use this for budgeting purposes. I'll never forget when Rocket Money first came out. And, I saw that and I signed up. I think I got a free trial through my taxes or something. And I was like, I'm going to try this out. This is an awesome app. Never canceled it. And for like a year, I just kept taking it out and I never used the thing. And I'm like, finally, I just, I remembered one day because I worked overnights. And to be honest with you, it was the last thing on my mind. But they hooked me. When I first signed up for it, I just forgot about it. And I would see it and it'd say, hey, Dad, direct TV to your Rocket Money thing. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I never looked at it again. And then they just kept taking the money out. And I was like, but you're 100% right. Like, I thought it was just going to be this great app that I was going to use. And it really wasn't my thing. Like, I mean, it was cool and it still is kind of cool. but for me personally, it didn't fit what I do, and then I forgot to cancel it, and then I paid them way more money than I should have,
Yeah.
and it was all because I thought it was going to be this latest greatest thing,
Y-
and instead I ended up wasting a bunch of money with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. True story. We were helping my oldest son. He was expressing some issues with managing his money. So his mom went in and took a look at his account, and among other things, at his subscriptions, she saw he had two, not one, two Rocket Money subscriptions. And the ironic thing about Rocket Money is the whole idea of Rocket Money is it's supposed to help you to find those subscriptions that you don't need anymore
Yep,
and eliminate them. But if you get Rocket Money and you don't use it, it just becomes a bigger part of that problem.
yep, yep. It's kind of an ingenious marketing model on their end because I'm sure they get a lot of people that do that, and then 6 months later, like, man, I should have canceled that 6 months ago. I wasn't
Yeah.
using it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They're the cure and the disease all wrapped up into one.
yep, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Been there.
Oh yeah, yeah. So once you have the tools, then it's a matter of executing. It's a matter of actually managing your money. And again, this is where you have to relate it back to those values in terms of what are my priorities going to be? Do I have a consumer debt, let's say, and is that consumer debt as I kind of put together my tactical plan, how important is it for me to eliminate that consumer debt? As I get my hands around my budget, if I have more month than money at the end of the month, as they say, how much of that is because of reoccurring debt payments and that type of thing? How do I break that cycle? And if I've got debt and I've got debt payments that are driving that, then just by removing that debt, I'm going to take the pressure off of myself. And then all of a sudden, at least I'm to a point where I can make ends meet and hopefully even have some money left over for savings. But it's really that type of analysis once you finally have whatever your system is up and running that you can do. It's kind of a clear windshield where you can see where you're coming up short and where your opportunities are. So I would think that another tool, and let's just go down the debt road for a while, because unfortunately that's what a lot of people find when they get to this stage is, again, if I didn't have those debt payments, then I would be in a whole different situation. I would imagine, and you help me out with this, that, and when we talk about first responders, I mean, we're talking about a broad universe of people, but I would imagine that a fair amount of people in those type of jobs have the ability to do things like overtime, correct?
Yeah, for the most part, because we're always so shorthanded, or either it's shorthanded or people are taking off, and so people, they can work overtime. I'm not gonna say it's consistent, but there's always part-time gigs out there, security at a bank or business that needs security, and so if they want the extra work, it's out there. It just depends on if they want to do it through the job or through, like a security company. Um, so yeah, I would say there's usually pretty consistent overtime available to officers.
Right, right. So again, just have a solid example here. If you do decide, hey, I need to get rid of this debt, it's going to change the game, and then I can start more proactive plans about saving and that type of thing. Then, if overtime is available to you, this is one of those things. This is where it's great to kind of go back to those core values, because that overtime or that second job or whatever it is you need to do to at least temporarily elevate your income, that's going to come with a price. I mean, you're already working, weird hours. You may have a spouse that's always working weird hours. You got kids. If you're not available anymore, then it kind of upsets the balance at home. It's not a thing to be taken lightly, but that's the time where you have to kind of relate it back to that goal that you have, those values that you have, the objective, and say, hey, this is not forever. This is something that we're doing to get to a goal. And you can even, if it helps you, you can even, do the math on that. My debt is X. By getting this overtime, I can make Y amount a month. I'm going to throw all of that at the debt. And that means we'll have this eliminated in Z amount of time. And it alleviates that feeling that, like, oh no, I don't have a life anymore. I'm never going to have a life anymore. No, you will have a life again. And at the end of the day, the life that you're sacrificing for is going to be closer to that objective that you've established before than what you're living now. So it is maybe from a lifestyle perspective, it is maybe taking a half a step backwards. So ultimately you can go forward. But again, if you're in a position where you have overtime or you have skills that can translate into a second job for that short period, what should hopefully be a short period of time of your life, and everybody's situation is different, but for what is hopefully a short period of time, it's going to be worth it in the long run. And again, that's a conversation, if you have a family, the whole family has to have. It's like your spouse needs to understand, I'm not going to be around as much. The kids, even if they're of a certain age, you may want to say, well, daddy's not going to be around as much as he was before because ... It's never too late to, you have to kind of break it down and make it age appropriate, but it's never a bad idea to start bringing or finding teachable moments along your financial journey to pass along to your kids. So those are my ideas from the first responder perspective. Anything to add there?
I think you knocked it out of the park, and I want to touch on. I think it goes back to our values. You have to define what your values are. In that, let's just say you have a big loan payment you got to make, and you're going to work extra amount of, an extra shift every week, for 6 months, to get it knocked out. Well, then you get it knocked out, and you're like, man, I really like having that extra stream of income, and you keep working it. Well, okay, you can, and you can take that money, but then do you save it? Do you spend it on something else that maybe you shouldn't spend it on? Okay, well then when you do that, then you're stuck in that cycle of, hey, now I gotta work that extra shift because I bought something else. Um, okay, well now I'm taking away that, extra day off from my family to work to pay that. And so I think we have to settle down for a minute and take that long look of, I've got this this debt paid off. What's the most responsible way to move forward? Because we always, I think in the first responder world especially, we work so hard for so long and we get to a point that we just want to impulse buy something because we're so burnt out from working so much. And we really need to take that step back and think, what's the best financial decision we can make? Because I'll admit, God help me, for a long time I was terrible with money, and I lived by that motto. I did. I would work, 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 and then I'm like, you know what? I deserve this. Let me buy this drone, or this TV, or whatever the case may be. And then I was stuck in that cycle of, well, now I got to work extra to pay that off. Um, and we have to just, in my opinion, just slow down once we pay something off and say, okay, what matters to me?
Yep.
And take that bigger picture approach instead of, let's just keep doing what we've always done.
Yep. And that's where the intentionality comes in. You can get buy-in up front again in a family situation. If you say, hey, this is just going to be for a certain amount of time, this isn't always going to be like this. We accomplish this goal, and then we can lighten up a bit. But if you don't accomplish the goal, if you get that extra income and somehow it doesn't make it to those debt payments, some of it accidentally slips and buys a drone or something, then not only are you not making progress as quickly as you want it, but you're kind of breaking the deal, so to speak, with that other person who may be toting more of the load so that you can make that extra money. So that discipline, you're absolutely right, is hugely important. So we'll just a couple of more steps here, but really important steps. So one, and again, I think this applies really to the first responder world in a big way. Another thing a corporate CFO is responsible for, and also a family CFO needs to be responsible for, is risk management. So for everything that we're doing and all of the great plans that we have, we've got our system of budgeting. We got a plan to eliminate debt, and we're getting overtime, and everything's rocking and rolling. Life is going to keep lifing. On the other hand, something is going to happen. Plans never go the way that they're written out. So you have to have that contingency plan, that risk management, that type of thing. And in the family finance world, it looks like a few things. And of course, insurance and having a proper insurance is one thing. But for the purposes that of what we're talking about today, I really like to come back more to the concept of an emergency fund. So as you're going through the process of getting everything set up and you're getting your tools set up and everything, and you're deciding what your priorities are, every situation is different. But in addition to, let's say, I want to tackle that debt, and in a lot of cases, even before that, you want to look at, well, how much do I have in emergency savings? How much cash do I have set aside that I've said I am not going to touch unless there's an emergency? Because having that cash set aside, it really helps with the momentum of whatever your plan is. So if you are trying to, again, eliminate debt, and you've got a plan and you're working that overtime, and you're starting to feel good about yourself because you can see the level of that debt dropping every month, but then something goes wrong with the car, and all of a sudden those funds have to go towards repairing the car and not towards the debt. Now, life is going to happen. It's all understandable, but it's kind of a built-in thing that could break your momentum. And what you're doing in a situation like that, the momentum is everything. The optimism, the charge that you get from accomplishing that goal, and the feedback is everything. And if that momentum gets broken enough, then just psychologically, it's kind of hard to stay in the game. So if you've got that those emergency dollars set aside to take care of, and you can't take care of everything. Things could happen that are, way beyond the scope of anybody's emergency fund. That's just life. But if you at least have enough set aside to take care of the normal things, I mean, we know, depending on the age of your car, that that it's going to need some work. I mean, even if it's in good shape, it's going to need routine maintenance. And if it's a little older, it's going to need something else. That. So that's the kind of thing that you can at least anticipate from the beginning. So you can have that set aside. So depending on your situation, you may want to have that risk management plan set aside even before you really, really get aggressive with that debt. Of course, you continue to want to make minimum payments and whatever else you can get there. But before you throw all of your weight behind that, take a look at your risk management plan. So once you get into that, once you get that momentum going, the momentum can really build.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. You hit that one out of the park. That's spot on.
And is that you were nodding your head in agreement there and smiling to the extent it sounds like might you have some experience with something like that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So, yep.
Yeah, I could tell the nod, and you kind of got that look in your eyes. It's like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Yep.
so
Yep. Been there.
I thought hit a nerve with that one.
Yep.
Okay, so the last one that I want to talk about, and we've kind of hit on it, but I think it's worth having just pointing out here separately for a minute, and it's communication and really just how do we make sure that we're living this plan well on a day-to-day basis. How are we communicating? How are we keeping each other motivated? How are we keeping things going? Now, your day-to-day budget is one way of doing that if you're an individual, but particularly if you are a part of a couple or family. And I hear a lot of people who talk about family budget meetings. We have to have a family budget meeting every month, and we have to sit down and we have to review the budget. And some people are a little bit more strict on that than I am, and God bless them. Me, I can't be that strict simply because I have to be honest about my own life. If I tried to get my wife to sit down every month and take her through a budget meeting, I would rather try to give 20 wet cats a bath at once than do that. It's just, it's just not going to happen. And she's smart as a whip. She's intelligent. She's an accountant by training. So it's not that it, goes over her head or anything. She just doesn't like it. So over the years, we've had to establish our way of communicating. And our way of communicating now, we are in a position now where we have gone through we need to get rid of our debt portion of our marriage and all of that. Sometimes when you're executing on plans like that, you have to communicate more often. So you have to recognize that. But another, I think, motivating factor is once you get past that, once you get to a point where you really have your plan going, then the communication, I think you have a little bit more flexibility on what that communication looks like. So if a date night once a month to discuss money works for you, go for it. If it's a little more low touch, so for example, I maintain our budget. My wife understands, how much a month we, what's our target spend on groceries and that type of thing. But I don't hit her upside the head with my budgeting app every, day, because I know that that's not what she's into. She knows to stay within those limits. She communicates to me if we're going to go over those limits, and I'll kind of ask questions as I need to. But other than that, if everything's going well, it's kind of a minimum bother thing, because I know she wants to, she is fully supportive, but she wants to be in the details as little as possible. So it's a little dance. We've worked it out, but all that to say, there needs to be some level of communication set up. But again, it's just like the budgeting. It has to be something that you two agree with and something that you're actually going to do. Because if it's one spouse who says, who thinks, yeah, we have to meet on this and we're going to meet on this, but we're going to have a money date, every other Friday, and we're going to enjoy it, and we're going to go out to a nice restaurant, and in that restaurant we have a laptop, and on that laptop we'll review this. That's probably not going to work. So again, yeah, there has to be a practical streak to this. So find what works for you.
Wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree. As we kind of start to wrap up, a couple things I want to touch on because I started this new thing. I'm going to leave that as a surprise on what we end on. Um, but where can people reach out to you if they decide, hey, I need some financial consulting, coaching? Where can they check your podcast out? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
The best way, thecfoathome.com. That's where if people want to check out the podcast, you can find episodes of the podcast. Also, if you go to that page, the first little pop-up that hits you will be ways that I can support you, and that's going to take you to information that tells you all about my coaching services and my financial education services. So just go to thecfoathome.com and it'll bring you into the whole CFO at home ecosystem.
I love it. So my thing I wrap up with now, if today was Vince's last day on this earth, what's your one positive message to turn this world into a better place?
Wow, I like the way that you have a nice, light, fluffy question to end your episodes.
Yep.
So that was one thing to share,
Yep.
to leave this
If
as a better world.
if it was your last day on Earth and you wanted to leave a good message to help the people behind you, what's your message? What's something that you would tell people to make this place a little bit better than it was before?
Particularly in the world that we live in right now, invest in personal relationships. There's just so much noise in the atmosphere right now, so many ways, so many things out there that influence us, so many things that can potentially tear us apart. Invest in personal relationships that you can cling to despite all of the noise and the distractions.
Yep. I agree wholeheartedly. That's a great one. Vince, thank you for joining me today, especially on a Saturday. Georgia Tech did upset Clemson,
All
and you are always welcome on this podcast, my friend.
right. Well, I consider you my lucky charm on that, Brent. So anytime you want me back, I'm there, sir.
Yeah. Vince, thank you again, and have a great weekend.
All right. Same to you, Brent. Thanks.